People touched on it, but like just because with all things in life, when somebody throws a stat out there, there's information behind it, right?
Yeah.
So you threw out the 18,000, right?
Yeah.
So there were 155 respondents. The median age of the person they asked was 21 years old.
Oh, there you go.
So we're talking $18,000, right? 21 years old.
Of course.
Right?
That makes sense.
30% of the people they asked were between 5 and 17. So most of the people who responded were kids.
5 years old?
We're kids.
I'm sorry, did you say 5?
Between 5 and 17. So they had 157 respondents. So obviously when they go to a household, right? Say the household has 5 people, they're going to count the mother and say the 4 kids, and that counts as 5 respondents. So of the 155, 30% of them were 5 to 17. Right?
Yeah. Got it.
So to me, I don't look at the wealth. The other things that were in that were more problematic. You talked about the food stamps.
Yeah.
70% of the people said they're on food stamps. Fuck how much money you're making. If you're on food stamps, you're putting a glass ceiling on yourself as far as moving up socioeconomic class.
Yeah.
Second thing that's concerning, of the households, 50% of them, single mother. Now, here we go. There may still be a dad in the house, and maybe they just don't talk about it. But again, I think that's shaping the framework of Somali families in North America, where you have a dad in the house. One is the dad is not there, 50%. The other, the dad lives there, whether he's off the books, sort of thing. Yeah. But you're setting a framework for your family where the father, even though he lives in the house, he's not really part of the house. Yeah. Because like they're hiding it. Yeah. Right? And because 70% of them are on food stamps, ties one and the other. So I'm not too concerned about the household income because there's always illicit funds, whether it be doing this or that, these sorts of things. Those are all off the books. But the fact that 70% of the people they asked are on food stamps and 50% of them live in single mom households, to me, that's a bigger contributor as far as for us growing up that list. Going from 91. The household income, 21 years old.
Okay, so speaking of household incomes, are Somali, like in terms of our people, are we buying houses? Is this why? No. Why are we buying? Okay, so no, listen. Okay, so let's do this. This is perfect.
100. Yeah. Oh.
So Larry, let's do it. Let's do it. So it's a clean answer, right? We're gonna start off with Bueller. We're gonna finish off with S, and then we're gonna give it to Larry. Okay. So I asked the question: our people? What am I saying? Anywho, are we buying? Are they buying houses? Like, why aren't we buying houses? And are we buying houses? Bueller, go ahead.
Rent is, I guess, safer religiously. Mostly, that's one of the reasons.
Explain to me. I don't get. What do you mean?
Well, interest and mortgage fees and stuff like that. There's certain. I've seen some people who take Islamic loans, like from Muslim banks, and then they buy their cribs like that. Yeah, but I think it's property tax and stuff like that. There's a lot of dangerous territory people don't want to try and cross on that. So
especially interest. It really stems from interest. Period.
So they do that. You know what I mean? And, it's
Samatar.
There's also discrimination from banks too, because sometimes the bank they won't give it to you, even though you have the financial stability and you have a job, but they're just like, well, the last 4 Somali guys defaulted. I'm not going to give you one. You know what I mean? There's a little discrimination from that too. So, building on what Kareem was saying, I'm just concerned about the financial opportunity with the money the Somalis do have. They a lot of times I feel like there's a whole like keeping up with the Joneses type of thing. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, well, they have an Infinity truck. I want to buy an Infinity truck, but guess what? Infinity truck, we drive it 1 kilometer off the dealership, it's depreciated in value a lot.
It goes,
you know what I mean? So that's why you gotta think about how we can invest our money and create more wealth. You know what I mean? Have more businesses that we can network with each other and help with each other. So there's a lot of money, but people are they're not investing it properly. It's about looking good and I got everything. You know what I mean? But how about with the real estate? Learn the law, learn the real estate, and K-Cup have generational wealth.
Yes, not just for today. Speaking of keeping up with the Joneses, I grew up, I'm going to just share a little story. I grew up in housing, right? When I was little, when we came to the country, we were just like everybody else. My parents didn't know where to get jobs. We were on air, the usual, right? And I remember as my parents started working, started creating wealth within our family, right? We would go, I would go to my neighbor's house, and my neighbor, who is also on welfare, has, a father, a husband that she's not claiming, got kids and everything, whatnot. They would have a chandelier in housing. Like I would walk
Chandelier.
in, a chandelier, crystals. Like I would walk in, and I remember going back to my mummy and saying, "Mummy, how come our house doesn't look like Habir Zainab's house or Habir Habak's house? How come we're really poor?" And my mom had to explain to me, "We're all poor. She's just choosing to stay poor, right?" And so, and then I didn't understand that. I swear to God, I'd always be like, "Look at the wallpaper," because we're us Somalis were like wallpaper. Look at the kitchen, everything. She was renovating a housing unit. Not her house. She was renovating.
This is the one I wanted to talk about. That was the one.
Yes. So then guess what happened? My parents, and I didn't understand this because growing up, we bought a house. We got out of the hood. We bought property. Right? MashaAllah, alhamdulillah. And my parents worked very hard and they continue to work hard. And as their children, we contribute to that, right? And we want that for our parents. That being said, guess what happened? It goes back to the crabs in the bucket.
People talk shit about them for buying a house.
They talked shit about it. I remember my parents are very much in the Muslim community and the Somali community. And people would say to them, "There no blessings will come into your house. You are doomed." The word doomed. I've never heard the word doomed. You are doomed. And I couldn't understand. I could not understand. So I do now when I got older, I understood where that crabs in the bucket mentality versus chandeliers is staying broke. Being broke and staying broke are two different things.
The survey you're talking about, 92% rent, 7% owned.
Go ahead, S. I know you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch up on one of the things. I'm going to skew a little bit and go back to the immigrants you were talking about, how they've got like more wealth. And one thing that's really interesting to me in your story is we don't have this short-term struggle mentality for long-term gain, right? And one thing that I know of immigrants, and I'll give you a story of one of my mom's friend that she worked with her, and this is in the UAE. This Indian lady, for 10 years, all she's ever done is bring her food from home. She would never spend even a dirham or like $1 on anything. And we recently, she actually invited us over to her house in India, and she didn't have house. She had houses. She had businesses, and she showed me her daughter's house, and we're just sitting there going, what did we do? What have we done? Because all we've done is eat comfortably, live comfortably, just spend, never thinking for long term. And these people are just hustling. And one of the things is, even people immigrants who move to North America, they'll live together in one qal for like the longest time.
Like 14 Indians in one
Chinese
bedroom.
Asians.
And they get together, and then they make that money, and then they move on.
They have to.
And they think about long term, and we don't do that because we're still, Kasi, he bought a Mercedes, why don't I also get a Mercedes? So we have that mentality, and the moment we step outside of that mentality, we'll never grow.
Understood. Cream.
Guys, who's the richest person in the Somali community? It's Hoya. Yeah, Hoya is the richest person in the Somali community, especially right now for us millennials. Everybody's sending their money to Hoya, but Hoya does not know what to do with it. Now, Hoya does not know what to do with it. She does not have people to go to. She doesn't have institutions to go to that can help her increase the value of her money, where she could use that money, buy a house in cash, use the money from that, get a friggin' franchise so that her kids can fucking work, you know what I mean, and stay out of trouble and have a job, you know what I mean? So, like, this shit.
My God, I've never heard you swear. Usually you don't swear a lot, but go ahead, Kareem, go ahead.
Real quick, I just want to touch on what Larry was saying about Islamic banks and how they failed. So, I've heard similar stories like your parents, where when somebody buys a house, the community, rather than being supportive and positive, they spew hate and negativity about interest. Now, in the Islamic world, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, they have Islamic finance. So they have things that are called sukuks. So sukuks are very big, and this is how they build things like major nuclear power plants, right? Like Abu Dhabi's building one. It costs $30 billion. You know what I mean? So typically, this is how a sukuk works, and this is considered Islamically okay, right? Okay. I mean, Queen Boa, you want to buy a house. It's $200,000, right? Okay? You don't have $200,000, but you want to buy a house.
I got it.
You come to me. I'm an Islamic bank, right? And I say, okay, I can give you the $200,000, and I'm going to pick a nominal interest rate because I want to make money off you. I'm not giving it to you for free.
Okay.
So 5%. I'm going to charge you 5% on the $200,000.
Okay.
And say, for example, this house is worth now $250,000 or $300,000.
Got it.
I'm going to give you a loan for $300,000, and you're going to pay me monthly payments. There's no interest. So it's halal. But where did the interest go?
It just got into
the value. They increased the value of the house. So that's what a sukuk is, and it's Islamically okay because there's no interest. But you've just inflated the price of this house.
Yeah.
So as a bank, you can still make a return because at the end of the day, this bank has to pay what? Their employees.
100%.
They got the lights to bill. They got all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
So when people talk about mortgages are in North America are haram.
Yeah.
The only difference with the bank is saying, oh, the house is $200,000. We're going to write $200,000 on the piece of paper, and we're going to write what the interest rate is on the piece of paper, and you just pay us that way. The only difference on the other side of the pond, they included in the value of the house.
That's it.
So it boils my blood when people say that mortgages are haram, but then on the flip side, you have these Middle Eastern countries that use sukuks as their financial tool.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the difference?
Yeah.
There's no difference. You've just inflated the value, so you can say Islamically it's okay. So
call it a service fee or something.
Wow. Thank you for explaining that, man. I did not know that. I swear to God. I wish I would have known that.
So when they're saying they failed the Muslim people, it's kind of like it's making you feel warm and fuzzy that, oh, it's Islamically okay.
Yeah.
But you just paid $300,000 for something that was worth $200,000.
Yeah.
And who made the profit?
Kareem, do you think buying stocks is haram?
Who, me? I would do it.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not a scholar. I'm not going to say what's haram. But to me, home ownership, playing the stock market, I'm all about that. Because you live in North America, and if you want to make wealth, you have to do it that way. If you're not going to play the game,
Go back to Somalia.
Go back to Somalia.
I'm gonna ask.